Oop has cerebral palsy. Someone keeps calling the cops on them. Originally posted by you, the Askew One in our legal advice on the 17th of November 2022. How do I stop my neighbor from calling the cops on me every time I wait at the bus stop? This is an issue that started 2 weeks ago or so. I use the bus to move around, so I walk from my place to the bus stop and the other way around daily. I have cerebral palsy, which causes a limp and bad balance. When I'm tired I stumble sometimes and it looks like I'm drunk. I'm aware of that. Now there's someone in the neighborhood who calls the cops every time they see me at the bus stop. In the last 2 weeks I was approached by the police 4 times already. They asked me if I was intoxicated. I explained. They let me go. They told me that someone had called for a man publicly intoxicated at the bus stop. Once they said intoxicated and incoherent. I never was drunk and or bothered anyone at the bus stop or elsewhere. Most of the time I'm waiting alone anyway. I suppose the caller lives in the neighborhood, sees me walking and thinks I'm drunk. I don't know who's calling. I really want it to stop. Even though the officers were polite and respectful, I don't feel safe having the police called on me repeatedly. One of the officers who responded once was very insistent and didn't seem to believe me at first. They told me they have to check every time someone calls. Can anything be done? Update originally posted by you, the Askew One in our legal advice on the 1st of December 2022. Update. Neighbor calling the cops on me when I'm at the bus stop. Brief update. As I was advised on here, I ended up going to the precinct to explain what was happening. An officer said there was no record of anything, but there are problems in our neighborhood with people on drugs who have been fighting and violently harassing bystanders, and that's probably why officers were dispatched every time someone called. It's nothing really new though, so I'm not sure why they suddenly started caring. Anyway, they're now aware of who I am, and I was told that if someone called, they'd let them know there was no problem and to go on with their day. It's been 2 weeks now, and the police haven't been called on me again. So hopefully the issue is solved. I am not the op. I generally dislike Nextdoor, but a case like this is a good use for it. Nothing says effective public shaming like a mild-mannered Nextdoor post politely requesting that whoever keeps calling the cops on the oop for having a disability please cease. The comments would be something beautiful to behold, especially knowing the perpetrator is likely reading them in real time. So frustrating. I have a friend with cerebral palsy. She's in a wheelchair and communicates via a tablet. She is regularly accosted on her trips between her apartment and the bus stop with questions like, "Should you be out here by yourself?" Quote, "Who's supposed to be watching you?" Quote, "Are you supposed to be out this late?" Quote, "When coming home after meeting friends at a bar," and has had the police called more than once. She's not a child. This woman has a frickin' PhD and teaches courses at a university, as well as presentations and trainings. Glad things worked out for him. Annoying that he had to go through the whole ordeal in the first place and the police didn't have him any notes about him or anything. People with disabilities have to take extra steps in every aspect of their lives just to live. It sucks. I'm glad that in this case the cops were able to listen to oop. I'm impressed that the police send someone out to check every time when there are so many instances of them shrugging when someone's physical being is in danger. Face with rolling eyes. My first thought was that oop should get a medical alert bracelet so that he can show it should the cops approach him again. He can explain, sure, but it would be a visual cue that it's something other than public drunkenness. I had a friend in college who had cerebral palsy. Fun guy. He really let loose once he was out of his parents' house. If he was drunk, he wasn't walking anywhere. That sucks so much. Even if he was drunk, he's not hurting anyone, just walking to the bus stop. Considering how often the cops respond with violence, at least in the US, you're threatening someone's safety for no reason. My mom had MS. She resisted walking with a cane for ages. Normal decision, totally her call and totally fair. She mostly agreed to use a cane because people kept assuming she was drunk because of her gait. An old friend of mine got kicked out of a club on her birthday for being clearly too drunk. You can't even walk straight. She had only just arrived at this club and it was their first stop. And she has cerebral palsy and walks with a pronounced limp. Even when she and her friend tried to explain, he wouldn't let them speak until she finally shouted that she was disabled. He was visibly spooked, went into the back, and then another guy came out and said he was the manager, that he was sorry for the staff member's behavior and offered her a night of free drinks for her and everyone she was with. Clearly terrified of being sued, she drank them dry. As someone with CP, I resonate with this so hard. While being on the mild end of the equation, you typically look like you're having a hard time putting one foot in front of the other. But it's just your normal walking. This post brings up memories of being in college and everyone around you thinking that you are hammered constantly, getting dirty looks from police and security when walking downtown at night, as you're simply trying to go about your way, is really soul-crushing. My uncle is disabled and has some mobility issues. Even though he can walk on his own just fine, he brings a cane with him when going out in public because he's tired of being harassed to strangers. His movements can look drunk and clumsy. He's been refused entrance to stores, kicked out of some places, had the cops called on him, and harassed in parking lots by random bystanders. For a long time, his son or I would go out with him just to keep people from bothering him. But now he does the cane thing. Even with the cane, he still sometimes gets nasty looks. Luckily, he makes friends wherever he goes, so the employees of all the regular places he visits are good to him. The library I work at has plenty of regulars. One of them is this really sweet woman who was in a terrible accident that left her with brain damage and memory issues. She comes to the library to read material that she was familiar with pre-accident to try and jog her memory. I once spent about 3 hours helping her with various tasks during her visit, which usually involved me teaching her how to do stuff like printing documents or using a search engine 3 or 4 times over. At the end of the day, she thanked me for being so patient with her. That's when she told me about her accident. She said, "You never quite realize just how cruel the world can be until you're disabled and you inconvenience someone." That really stuck with me. I've always been a patient and understanding person, but now I like to keep that in mind any time I interact with people. The world doesn't need more senseless cruelty. I think people need to take a moment and consider if the person behaving differently is actually causing any problems with their behavior. If it is simply making you uncomfortable, what law is that person who is twitching a lot or mumbling to themselves breaking? People need to understand that the police are not trained to work with disabled people. There's a good possibility they could cause harm, either physically or mentally, to the disabled person. If they're not causing any harm, leave them be and let them exist in public without fear of violence and harassment. Sorry for the rant, lol. Oop needs a shirt that says, "Not drunk, just disabled." Maybe add a "you jackass" to the bottom. I had a young client who had a rare cancer that affected his brainstem. He basically looked drunk when he walked and needed a lot of support to do so, along with slurred speech. One time it was the middle of the day and I was helping him out of my car and got his arm around me. As we started walking and some dude walking by goes, "Wow. I want whatever he's on." We both just kind of stared and the guy is like, "What?" I was just joking, as we walk past each other. I still think back to that and that I should have said something more, but it was one of those WTF moments. Why just assume something like that? I mean, I can see it probably looked like I had a drunk teenager hanging off me. But even if I did, would it have even been that funny at noon walking into a bank if he was a drunk, high kid? People are so cavalier about calling the cops. In the United States, calling the cops on someone can be a death sentence, even for innocent bystanders. If this happens again, OOP can always contact their local news station. They love this kind of story and it can really benefit OOP and get the cops off their back. Many disorders can mimic intoxication. Always check if someone is drunk or if they are hypoglycemic. There have been cases of diabetic people suffering a hypoglycemic episode, passing out and dying, because people treated them like drunks. It honestly makes me sad how inconsiderate society can be. That neighbor was trying to get him killed. This sort of thing would make me want to call the police station and warn them every single time I had to take the bus. I'm petty and confrontational and shameless enough that I'd wear a sandwich board that read, "I have cerebral palsy. Stop calling the cops on me. I'm not drunk. Ableist moron." Quote.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.